We are back at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. It is Business Monday, and thank our friends at Deepwater Wind. Want to thank Mr. Cascione, Mr. Sass, both coming on talking about Rhode Island economy as well as national issues. Today we marked our 1,000th interview, different guests who've been on in the past 10 months, a remarkable plethora of local, national, and global leaders. And just want to take a minute with the two editors. First, Kate Nagle, our news editor, and talk about over the past 10 months some of the more interesting, I think they've all been interesting, guests who've been on and reflect on some of them. Who are some of the ones that you most enjoyed chatting with?
The ones that most stand out, we have such a great combination of both people doing things here at the local level, up to national, up to international. I think one that really had to stand out was Ben Mesrick, the New York Times best-selling author. He had wrote Bringing Down the House, which they turned into the movie 21. He had written The Accidental Billionaires, about the founding of Facebook, of course, turned into the movie The Social Network. We had the opportunity to have Ben Skype in to basically give his first press interview about his latest book called Woolly. So it was fantastic to have that 15 minutes back and forth, and not only to have that interview opportunity, but when I saw him at an event about a week later, he again gushed about his opportunity to be able to talk about the process and how the movie is already out, decided upon, then he has to go and write the book. Not just the soundbite, but the ability to have that extended period of time to be able to do press.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, especially folks that are trying to get attention to a fundraiser in the community or an issue where they think there's an injustice. This isn't a 15-second soundbite on TV or radio. This is an extended 15 minutes, sometimes half an hour discussion about a complex issue and try and break it down into who are some of the others?
Of course, I have to put pollster John Della Volpe on that list, and most importantly for partnering with GoLocal to be able to provide Rhode Island voters with the information as to where folks stand and their attitudes currently regarding current elected officials, trends in the economy. We were able to do the benchmark poll with John, which is going to be super important as we move forward with future polls to see if people's attitudes change. But in this day and age, especially here in Rhode Island, we have such a lack of concrete information regarding favorability regarding elected officials. Again, any of the information that people just want to know kind of what the temperature gauge is, to be able to get a pollster of such renown as John, and then have him be so accessible. He just Skyped in last week. He had just put out a poll about millennial behavior, again through Harvard and Social Sphere, and then to talk with him following the special election in Alabama to really apply what he had seen there from an academia standpoint, and then to see it sort of in real world function. So to be able to balance both, again, to tap his expertise for our polls, but then get a holistic sense of the political realm in general.
Yeah, I think John was, a game changer a little bit in the poll that he did for us in October. First thing it did is it unveiled the unpopularity of the proposal of the POSOX funding structure. Literally less than 30% of folks support that. 2/3 are opposed to it. And I think that really, for folks up at the State House, it was going down in every region of the state, by every demographic group, by every gender, by every political party. And I think that caused folks up there, this wasn't a pollster that anybody could poke holes at, and I think it really raised the issue. I think some of the others that were interesting was that, President Trump had the lowest excellent good rating. The governor was second with the second lowest. And 12% of Trump folks thought he did an excellent job. Only 6% of Rhode Islanders thought Governor Raimondo was doing an excellent job. And I think that was a little bit of a wake-up call for folks up there. And listen, the governor's got members of her key staff that have worked with John Della Volpe on polling on Democratic issues over the past 2 decades. So there wasn't any ability to say, oh, that was a partisan poll, or he had his own agenda. And certainly we didn't. We want to get the data together and put it out there for folks to be able to take a look at. Who else, Kate?
Going internationally, I just want to give a little kudos to Bob Whitcomb, our GoLocal columnist who comes in every week, wears another hat with the Providence Committee for Foreign Relations, and gets an amazing array of speakers internationally to come in. One, Jean Lesieur, one of the leading French journalists helped start France 24, global online news site, to be able to get his perspective, now just one perspective, on the new Trump administration. I believe he had the comment that Trump had the attention span of a goldfish, but just to get outside the confines here in Rhode Island, to get, again, one French journalist take, but to be able to do that here. We had Skyped with him before, to have him here in studio. We Skyped with him after there was that attack on Notre Dame, that we were wondering, well, what's going on? How do people feel in France, especially with everything that's gone on in England and France? Skyped right in, gave us that perspective on the ground. So that best of all worlds, having him over there.
Who was the biggest newsmaker here? Like, who came in here and sort of shook up the Rhode Island world?
It might have to be Link Chafee coming in. He was very critical. He has been very critical of Governor Raimondo's economic strategy, calling it the candy store approach. Like,
it was his first interview in the United States since he had abandoned his presidential campaign. I think he had done an interview either in the Ukraine.
It was Russia. Yeah, it was Ukrainian or Russian television
Yeah.
that wanted to get his take on the Trump administration. Simply wanted a number of elected officials to come in and just happened to sort of create the firestorm. He's been in a number of times. But again, when people have those just, off the cuff reactions, and again, that candy store approach, that stuck.
Right. Who else?
So let's go down the list. I have to give Jennifer Lawless kudos for Skyping in with
she's
us.
The best. I got to fill in one week. You were sick or in Bolivia or wherever you were, and I got to host with Jennifer Lawless, professor at American University, leading really political science, looking at women in politics in America. And she is rapid fire, machine gun oriented analysis of everything that's going on in the House, the Senate, and Washington.
Any national pub, whether it's Politico, HuffPost, constantly quoted for the female perspective and women in politics perspective. Again, coming from Brown, having run against Langevin, going down to American, as I always say, the inside the Beltway perspective, because we can get a little bit of up here, but what is everybody talking about? What's
and she's
dominating
making
the
news right now in Washington. Her bulldog is being considered by Washingtonian Magazine as one of the cutest pets in Washington, D.C. So you never know the vast array of influence that Professor Lawless has.
And speaking of pets, we've had a number of animals here in the studio, but one of my favorite guests too was Aria Mia Liberti down at URI, an advocate for people. She has a guide dog for a seeing guide dog, and she had some trouble with AAA being able to get a car when she was broken down, and they told her they couldn't take the dog, and so it was really an issue of importance to folks.
Civil rights,
disabilities, the whole kit and caboodle. Got her to come right up from URI and talk and be that advocate. She goes to the UN and advocates for women with disabilities around the world. She's down at URI. I had the opportunity to meet her before.
She's a student at URI.
She's a student at URI.
Yeah, right.
She's incredibly impressive. But to, again, have this forum to be able to give someone, again, that ability to talk right to people and say, this is important, and hold people accountable.
Well, I want to thank you, and we'll be back at it tomorrow, Ava. And I'm going to ask, Ava's got the 3 o'clock hour, you have the 4 o'clock hour. But before we go, I want to ask Molly O'Brien in, and she's had a lot of guests over the past 10 months. So let's get the Molly in here.
Let's get the Molly in here.
All right, thank you.
You don't get to run it yourself.
All right, Molly O'Brien.
Josh,
Good to see you.
nice to see you. Hey everyone. So
I-
I know just to tell you, I know it's a paperless zone, everyone,
Oh my
but because we were talking with Navigant, I used my Navigant Post-it paper to write down my guests.
I do have my Navigant coffee cup. Let's talk about, you've had some phenomenal guests. Can I jump in just on my favorite of your guests? It was early on,
Very
month
early
or
on.
two on, and the penguins came up from
So much fun.
Mystic Aquarium. Let me just tell you, we're a hard-nosed news organization. We don't show much emotion. There's not a lot of sympathy. They are the cutest freaking things
So smart,
you
too.
have ever seen. And I want to also thank them just to break the office in and to leave their mark in the office numerous times was remarkable.
Well, and that's the thing. So Mystic Aquarium does so much research. They really work in conservation and helping out with the ocean planet. So anytime I can speak with someone, whether it's via Skype or get anyone with Mystic into the office, it's great. So I've really loved working with them. And I'd like to just say that GoLocal and GoLocal Live, this has just been such a great opportunity, just this environment and having this workspace and this opportunity. We've talked to so many interesting, informative. It's been really overwhelming to have this platform to let our community members and people really across the nation and the world have a platform to speak. What's really neat is I've worked in traditional media for well over 10 years, and you take people's interview, maybe a 20 to 30 minute interview, and then you clip it down so they get a 15-second soundbite. This platform, we're really able to let people speak for 15 to 20 minutes, and that entire interview is aired. And I really think that's a powerful message to allow people to have that opportunity, especially in today's media climate.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I think people really appreciate it. I mean, one of the things when you start something that really nobody's done anywhere in the country, the idea of it when first proposed, people are like, "You're gonna do what? You're gonna do 2 hours of live with all these interviews?" And the reaction was, "You'll never be able to do it."
And, I was in on those meetings,
yeah.
and I had to try to explain it too.
I think the exciting part has been all of our expectations have been blown away. And we had big expectations, but last week was a great example. One day we've got Billy Gilman on, the next day you brought in the National Archivist. I mean, it's the juxtaposition of the two, right? Here's somebody who's managing 14 billion, he's only the 10th archivist in the history of the United States. He's managing 14 billion pieces of paper. And Billy Gilman, who was a Grammy nominee when he was like 3 years old,
exactly.
and finalist for The Voice, and really just a great Rhode Island success story as an entrepreneur. Forget all the other accolades he gets, but he's just constantly reinventing himself and couldn't be more charming. It was just a great example of some of the things we're able to do and how many people we were able to touch. Talk about some of the folks that you really enjoyed spending time with. And this is a cruel discussion because we've talked to 1,000 people.
Oh my God, over 1,000 at this point.
And they've just been spectacular.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you just take a look at my show today, and you look at the dichotomy, and I'm the lifestyle editor, and what's been great about this position is you've given me, and this office has given me the freedom to really run with that, and lifestyle can really be an umbrella. So today I talked to a leading scientist. She works at Brown University, and she's leading literally the country on working to combat and eradicate sexual harassment within geosciences.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just look at that, and she's in our backyard at
Right.
Brown University. So that was one discussion that I had today, and then I had 2 comedians and podcasters within our community. So those are 2 very, very opposite
Those fall
discussions.
directly under lifestyle.
Exactly. So I've been able to have the privilege to expand my horizons, which is something that I'm very proud of doing. So my little list here, it's tough to do, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we've talked to so many wonderfully educated and fun and stimulating people. So I want to start off big. This was a really important interview for me to have, especially dealing with the climate that we've had this year. So Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum, she's former president of Spelman University. She's an expert in race relations, and this year she recently released the 20th anniversary of her groundbreaking book, Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together in the Cafeteria? So we actually had, because it was such an important discussion to have, we had a 30-minute pop-up discussion here in the studio. So I was very nervous for that interview.
You were nervous.
I was very nervous.
You studied like
yeah.
for days.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very important conversation to have, and she was here in Rhode Island. She has a couple connections here, but I mean, she has been called on to help, not like national media, but she's very well connected, and so I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to speak with her, and I think we need to have more conversations like this.
So you've talked mostly about the serious natures of that. Let's go frivolous.
Oh, okay. Well,
straight fun.
Okay, straight fun. Well, this was another interview that I was a little bit nervous for. I don't normally geek out talking to people, but I had the opportunity to interview Mike Love, original founding member of the Beach Boys. That was via Skype, but I'm a huge music fan.
Right.
I really love the education and the history of music. I actually studied some music in college, believe it or not. I know, weird, right? So that was
She
really
breaks
exciting.
out into song regularly.
I mean, yeah, in my head. So that was a really fun interview to have, and just to hear kind of his stories. that's music that kind of shaped our nation,
Yeah,
right? The
absolutely.
Beach Boys. So that was really fun. Some more local interviews that I've been really proud to be a part of. The United Way and GoLocal do this series called Emerging Leaders.
That is a fun one.
Yeah, it's really neat. And so 2 of those, Providence Public Schools, Richard Norris, and then Wole Akinbi, those were 2 really neat people that I had the privilege of speaking with. So I think those were pretty great. Also, Willa Van Nostrand, she's awesome with Little Bitta. She's always
Oh
a
my
pleasure
God.
to have here in the studio.
So let me just tell the story. The same day that she was in, she's this master drink maker. We also had in from Cork in Ireland, the head of the airport over
Yeah.
there, and the head of marketing. So they were here, she was here. And those folks from Cork never pass by a chance to
She made
have
everybody drink.
a spectacular piece of cocktail, and then we had to go down to Congress afterwards with them. And so she made the folks from Ireland wildly at home. And, that leads to probably the most exciting one. One of the most exciting ones I've been involved with was the former Prime Minister, Kenny.
Amazing.
Yeah, who Skyped in. And, wildly interesting to hear his insights into Brexit in England and what the implications has been to spectacular growth in Ireland, and also the implications of what's going on at TF Green with Norwegian Air flying direct to multiple cities in Ireland, and how that's helping grow their economy and our economy. One last one.
Okay, so
Last one.
my last
Make
one.
it good.
All right, I think this is important to talk about, just really the talent that we have in Rhode Island, and the people like, oh, they're from here? Oh, they're from here? So this was another Skype interview. I spoke with Tony Horton, who created the fitness series P90X and then everything after that. So he's really built this fitness empire. Empire, yeah, and really has changed if you think of who deals with health and fitness, he built this brand and really kind of changed the way we think of health and fitness. And so I think that was a pretty moving interview as well, and just being able to talk to that and hear a little bit about his Rhode Island roots. He was born in Westerly and then went to the University of Rhode Island.
And we preview the next day, that day each morning, and how many guys from URI hit me who are in the same fraternity as
like,
him,
oh, him?
and
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, we used to play basketball
Yeah.
together. I think some of the other ones that stand out, I got to do 2 days with former drug kingpin
incredible,
Wolf
yeah.
Kennedy, who's got to be one of the more interesting and really a very significant member of organized crime for the better part of decades, and really talked about honestly what the implications of it, how his life started in it, and how he's trying to move his life forward since he's gotten out of federal prison after 15 years or so. And I think that was one of the more interesting ones. I also like the dynamic nature of something that can happen there in literally the same day. We've got people who are experts on it coming in here and talking about it, and I think that's been a really interesting part of it. So wildly exciting. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
Kate's done an amazing job. Rick's
You've
done
done okay.
Rick's done an amazing job hosting the taste and drinking wine, and then also he's focused a lot on drinking wine. And Rick has also drank wine. And Ava Gaudette bringing in a whole host of people, both from Broadway, where she was on Rent on Broadway, and then out in LA, where she was on a couple of television shows, NCIS and Ugly Betty, and has had a remarkable career in the arts. So we're excited about everything that's going on. We're going to have some huge announcements for 2018 coming up, but
And can
also,
I just say something too? What's great about having Ava and Rick is that they provide expertise and connections and add a whole nother element to this show.
absolutely.
So we all have these areas that we are all sort of experts in, but because Rick and Ava both have connections and so much expertise in these areas. So Ava studied in music, and she went to Berkeley, so she can talk music
Absolutely.
with these musical guests. She is an actor, so she can talk acting with these guests. She can talk LA. She can talk Broadway. I could try, but
I could do sock puppets,
yeah.
but that's about it.
And Rick knows the restaurant industry, so these two people are very much insiders, and that's what it's really all about, is bringing you that inside look and inside perspective. And so it's so great that they can do that, and then we can bring you that inside knowledge.
Listen, everybody, thanks so much. Appreciate you tuning in on Business Monday. Thanks to Navigant Credit Union folks, and also to Deepwater Wind. Couldn't do it without them. Thanks to Molly, Ava, Rick, Kate, and Ava will be on tomorrow, 3 to 4, and Kate Nagle will have 4 to 5 with news and politics. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.